welcome, family. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. And as we normally do, let us say that federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. Now, this is called fair use and is allowed for the purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, parody, which doesn't infringe on the copyright under 17 USC 107. And as always, let us remember that we must always stay accountable. We must always keep our heads down and our hands up. Always praying. Men ought always to pray, singing to themselves in songs and hymns and spiritual songs. And that's something that we must always do, family, if we want to stay close to the Most High. Again, remembering that we need to keep our heads in the scriptures. We need to search these things like the Bereans every day to make sure that we are staying on the path. And I want to tell you that when we do that, that's the only way that we can make sure that we are dead in the right with this thing. Because outside of it, we're not going to be able to know. And how are you? There you are. Man, look, I have had a horrifying, I can't say horrifying, but a harrowing week. It's been definitely a challenge. And I want to say that because I live here in California, I am here in the fire zone where the power was cut off of. And let me tell you that this week has been more strenuous than the week that, the week and a half that I had to evacuate with Momma. And with the fire on my heels and having to leave with my mother, who was on a walker and who was being very resistant about leaving and everything else when we're being under a mandatory evacuation. And I had said to her during that time that if it were not for you, I would just hang out, but you're older, you're on a walker, and you will slow me down. And by you slowing me down, we could both die. So we've got to go now before we get caught in this fire. I'm in Northern California among the trees. And I have to tell you that the fires that we see are not what they're cracked up to be. A lot of people just see fire. But for those of us who are watching the news and paying attention to what's going on and looking at what's really happening behind the scenes, people would call it a conspiracy theory or whatever, but when you have facts that back up what it is that you're seeing, it's not a theory. What it is that people do not want to pay attention, and they don't want to believe that what they actually see is real. And because they don't want to believe what they see is real, that causes people to be put in situations where they lose their lives. There's been more people killed in the fires than what mainstream media will report and tell you the truth of. There's been more things lost in the fires, property, animals, real estate, structures, all sorts of things than what mainstream media is really telling you, because when we're here and we're boots on the ground, we can see what's happening. I was saying to someone before who did not believe what I was telling them that the fire that happened a few years ago in Santa Rosa was orchestrated to occur way back in 1996. There's a thing called Agenda 21, and Agenda 21 is simply all the things that we have on our agenda that we want to accomplish by 2021. Part of that is getting people to leave certain areas, and move back into the cities where the populace can be more controlled and more easily controlled. By getting people to move out of these wilderness areas and we're up in the trees, they want to, the term is rewilding. And then there's the Agenda 2030. And I've had people say that that's not real either. But listen, let me say this. You have an Agenda 21, first of all. Things that they want to have accomplished by 2021. And then we've gone through power outages that last for days. We just came out of one that was about 5 days long. Some people in their outages never had a break in between. So PG&E, which is Pacific Gas and Electric, which has the power, which is run by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, said that we're shutting off the power and we're doing it to keep people safe. Well, they said the same thing in Hurricane Katrina, but a lot of Hebrews died. They say the same thing every time is about keeping the populace safe, but people die, and people get killed, and things are lost, and properties are lost. So they're saying now, and I should have brought the article up so I could put it here, but I didn't, I'm sorry. But you can Google it. They're saying that this California power outage thing is, the CEO of PG&E said that this could be the norm for the next 10 years. Now, if we go from now to the next 10 years, where does that put us? That puts us right at 2030, doesn't it? That's Agenda 2030. That's one of the agendas. This is the thing that I explain to people all the time. You can say I'm crazy, but then they tell you what it is they're going to do. They see, and that's the way sigil magic works. They have to tell you what it is they're going to do to you before they do it to you. That's a spiritual, satanic ritual that they play. They have to show it to you or tell it to you before they do it to you. There's a reason why Avatar came out the way that it did. Okay? Avatar is loosely based on the way that we live, our rituals, our earthly rituals, how we're connected to the earth. The people that they were doing what they were doing to in Avatar were called the Na'vi. Well, Na'vi in Hebrew is prophet. They had the soul tree. They had the tree of wisdom. They had, okay, and what did we have in the garden? The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's the tree of wisdom. There's so many different things that you can see. The Amazon forest they set on fire. Those are indigenous Hebrew people. They were us. Okay? They wanted the land. They wouldn't get off the land, so they burned it out. Same thing they did in Avatar. They wanted the land. They wouldn't get off the land, so they burned them out. Same thing here. However, this is not all Hebrews here. But they still want the land. And they want people back in the cities. So if this is going to be the new norm for the next 10 years, as the CEO of PG&E said, that puts us right into 2030, and that's just one of their agendas. In 1996, they had an Agenda 21 mapped out for this particular area, all the things they wanted to do with it. Well, when you take the burn map from 2017, Santa Rosa, and you lay it over the top of the two, all the streets match. That lets you know that in 1996, they already had an agenda laid out. And they knew that by the time they started to work on it in 2017, people would have either forgotten, have moved, a lot of them would have died because the opposition were older, and their youngsters and their children would not remember. So that if a person like me came along saying, hey, they plotted this way back when, you're crazy, that's just a conspiracy theory. But is it a conspiracy when you lay one map on top of another one and all the streets match? So I'm saying this to you for a particular reason because I want to show you something. You see, this has always been our history. We have always said that we are crazy. We have never listened to one another, and we've always fought against one another, especially during the time of when Jerusalem was being taken down by Titus and Vespasian. During that time, there were factions that were warring against one another inside the city. And I've heard this story before, but it was never really broken down to me. Excuse me, family. I've been up early in the morning. I just came home from work, and I'm sitting here thinking and in my own thoughts, and I thought that I would come here and talk to you for a minute and share some things. Now, while we were in the blackout, this is what I had to experience. My mother is in a facility, a 24-hour care facility. Most of you know that she had an episode last March, which basically amounted to a major brain bleed and a stroke. She's completely paralyzed on her right-hand side. And now she isn't eating. Well, let's see. Let me say this correctly. It hurts for her to swallow. Therefore, she won't swallow. You put certain food in her mouth, she'll just stick it in her jaw like a chipmunk, and she'll hold it there. And then when she falls asleep, her lip will droop because she's paralyzed on the right-hand side, and then her saliva and everything will cause that to run right out onto her clothing. I can't tell you how many times I've walked up in that facility and found her dirty because no one has checked on her after dinner. So I go by every other day. I'm washing her face. I'm cleaning her up. I'm doing what I have to do. And then during the blackout, I was there almost every day. I still had to work, but the store was closed. And managers had to be there as security while the store was closed. So I have to prepare my mother's food. They called me and told me to prepare for end of life because this is what happens when seniors get old and they're going to die. And I said, she's not going to die. She doesn't want to die. She can't swallow. It hurts to swallow. Now, I watched her eat her food or try to eat her food, and she couldn't swallow. They puree her food because she can't no longer open her mouth to put her dentures in. So she has to eat without her teeth. So they puree her food and they make this they take like an ice cream scoop and they put a pad on her plate. And so they put just enough water or whatever liquid in it to turn it into a patty. It's like an ice cream scoop just plopped on your plate. It's just, but it's still dry bread with some moisture in it, but it's still dry bread. And they do that with all of her food. And she's not the only one. But she can't swallow even that. So she won't eat because it hurts to swallow. And so I remembered when I had my tonsils out. And when I had my tonsils out, my mother was feeding me ice cream. And the ice cream was easy to swallow. So I didn't forget that. And I said, well, if she's having difficulty swallowing, let me try some frozen stuff. So that's when I started making the yogurts for her. So I make these yogurts out of avocados and bananas. I use moringa, some stevia, some actual organic yogurt, organic apple juice, various different other fruits, bananas, mangoes, apples. But I take these to her in a large Rubbermaid plastic container. And it's thick like a pudding, but it's almost liquid. You could drink it if you wanted to, but you could still eat it with a spoon. It's that thick. And then I make sure that it's nice and cold, and sometimes frozen. I have some frozen, but it's nice and cold. And so, Mama eats like that. So I had a nurse come up to me, and this is the main one who called me and told me to get ready for Mama to die, and told me I should start making preparations and arrangements. And I said, my mother's she doesn't want to die. She can't swallow. And so I read this woman the Riot Act, and she all but told me that I was wrong. Well, that was about 2.5 months ago. Mama's still here. So she came in and she ran into me yesterday, and she was quite surprised that I was sitting there feeding Mama. And she had this look on her face like, oh, like she's still alive? Like she was supposed to already be dead or something. My mother's nose had not been cleaned, and I could not tell you how long, that I could hear her struggling for air. like that. So they didn't have any Q-tips, they said. So I went and got some long swabs that were on a stick, put them in some hot water, and I moistened the inside of her nose, and I got all that crap out of her nose. And then I fed her, and she fell asleep holding my hand so tightly. So this is what I deal with because I can't bring my mother home. She's in a facility, and I have to go over every other day or so and make sure that my mother's being taken care of. And when the power went out, the place has a generator in the back, so she was still able to be on her bed and have her oxygen because they have a generator. Now, when the power goes out for me, I don't have that luxury. I don't have that luxury, so all I had in my house was my wood-burning stove, and I was cooking on my wood-burning stove. But when I was at work, I go to work. I hope you can see this. That's the inside of the building. As you can see, there's no lights on. And we were in the midst of a very, very, very bad power outage. This is looking toward the front, and the light you see is what's coming through the front windows. Again, you can see there's no lights on. And let me show you this other one. Did I show you that one? Oh, I showed you that one. This is looking down the hallway toward another part of the store where there's a large door and a window down on that end. There's no lights on. We endured 5 days of this. This is what the store looks like when the lights are on. Okay? That's what it looks like when the lights are on. So the whole county, if you've been watching the news, you know that we all lost our power. No one had any power. So, and I was going to put these up, but I didn't have them up, but I'll show you this. This is, let me see, let me find. Okay. There's Momma in the hospital. Okay. And this is when she's lost in her own mind with her dementia. She's just staring off into space. This was before I started feeding her what I feed her. I have a superfood. I've created something that's full of superfoods and things that stimulate her neural pathways for her to come back to me, and she does. Let me see. Do I have that one in here? Let me see if I can find this. I want you to see where. Here we go. This is what I find when I come get my mother. I hope you can see that. I hope you can see that. Let me see if I can. All of that crap around her face is food that's dripped out of her mouth because she's fallen asleep and she can't eat what they're giving her. I was going to put this. There you go. That's a son of a better shot. You can see it on her chest, hanging out of her mouth, and she's asleep. Okay. So, anyway, I deal with this on a regular basis because I can't take care of my mother by myself. I need help, and the family doesn't give me any help. And here's the problem: when the power goes out, I can't prepare the meals that Mama needs. My blender doesn't work, so I need a solar generator that will allow me to be able to still prepare meals for my mother. Because if she doesn't eat, she will die. And I take meals to my mother so that she won't die, because they're telling me that this is what happens when you get to end of life and it's time for them to die. So I have the nurses giving my mother shots of morphine to lessen the pain 20 minutes, half an hour before she eats or before I feed her. So it helps take the pain away, when I start giving her frozen stuff. And when I start giving her frozen stuff, she can tell what's in her mouth, and she will eat readily when I'm feeding her. When they feed her, she just holds it in her jaw, and she'll fall asleep with it in her mouth until it dribbles all out on her chest. So I need a solar generator, and I'm asking you, family, to help me. I have a GoFundMe. I have a Cash App. I'm going to put the links in so you guys, if you would please help me get something. So they're saying that the power is supposed to go out again, and another, we're supposed to have it on for 5 days, and it's supposed to go off again on the 7th. Some places are getting the all clear. They're saying that their weather situation is over with. But the problem is that next fire season, this will happen again. And the fire season after that, this will happen again. And as long as my mother's alive, she's going to be dealing with this. I'm going to be taking her food. And whenever the power goes out, for whatever reason, they decide they want to turn the power off. There was days they said, we're going to have high winds and we're going to turn the power off because we don't want to knock any lines down and spark any fires. And then 3 or 4 days go by, no wind. Power's still off. Like, okay, there's no wind. When are you going to turn the power back on? Power's still off. Well, no, we're not going to take any chances, so we have to sit here in the dark. People's or houses are getting broken into. Their generators, the gas generators, are sitting out front of their houses, in front of their garages, and a lot of them are chained down, and people are stealing the generators while they're running, and the people are right there in the house. This is the reason why I'm asking for a solar generator, because I if you don't hear it, you don't know I even have it running. You have to go by and see lights on in the house. I have blackout curtains, so you can't tell lights are on in here. I'm trying to do things that are necessary because desperate times, people do desperate things. And when they do those things in desperation, they don't care who you are. And they're really not trying to hurt you or anything. They're just trying to take care of their families. So they'll steal from you, in order to take care of their families. And they will rob you. Those days are coming. Those days are fastly approaching, and this is becoming a test case to see just how much stress we can put the people in California under before they start to snap and break. And I've always said, and I've always told people that they use California as a test case, and if it works here, they start to roll it out across the country. Smart meters started here in California. Before they went anywhere across the country, they started here. They wanted to see if they could make it happen here in California. Would the Californians protest it? Would they fight it? California did not fight it the way that they thought that they would. So there was a fight here in California, and it was started by two activists who are here locally, Deborah Tavares and a fire captain, former fire captain Mike. And Deborah Tavares and her husband fought so vigorously against this thing that her and her husband had to leave the country for fear of their lives until it was over, when the smart meter fight was over. So they came back, and she talks about the fires now. You can look up Deborah Tavares, Tavares, and is Deborah, Deborah Tavares. She's here. She lives in Marin, and everything that she talks about, same thing I've just told you. Because we're here and we're on the ground and we see what's happening, and then we try to tell people and people don't want to listen. Well, she's the activist that's been to Washington, D.C., she's been to Sacramento, she's been to the United Nations, she's been out there telling everybody with huge packs of documentation, talking about the chemtrailing in the skies and everything else, and no one wants to listen to her. She got certain things on the ballot and tried to get people to sign petitions, and no one wanted to sign petitions. And she said, listen, if you don't help me with this, these are the things that are going to happen. 10 years ago, she was saying that, and here we are. Those things are happening. They've been happening since 2017. She's still talking about it, and people still say she's crazy. She's like, look, I got the documentation. I've been talking about this for years. You're the ones who aren't listening. So that's the thing. I'm asking for your help. I got a Cash App, and I have a GoFundMe, and I'll put those links in there. And I just ask you, family, to give me some help so I can get a generator in here and take care of my mom when those type of situations happen again. I don't care about me. I have a wood-burning stove. I cook on top of the wood-burning stove. I can get by with a couple of lights, but the one thing I can't do is run my blender to fix my mother her food. That's what I need that generator for. So that's the main thing. I need to be able to run that because I can't blend it and liquefy it any other way. My mother she has to have food that's almost liquid, you know, and the hospital has refrigerators and freezers over there in their situation because they have the generators, but the kitchen, they won't take her food any further. They'll puree it and that's it. They won't liquefy it. Therefore, if she doesn't eat, she'll die, and that's what they're waiting for. And that's what most happens with most senior citizens. If you're not watching and paying attention, they stop eating because they can no longer swallow the food. It's even though they puree it, it's still too thick. It needs to be almost liquid, but it needs to be food that's almost liquid. And if it's almost liquid, they can take it down. I can get mama to drink it. I can give it to her off a spoon. I can cup a straw and drop it in her mouth. She'll take it any way that she can get it, as long as she can swallow it. And she's happy to see me coming because she know I'll feed her. So that's what I'm saying, family. Now, talking about these other things, let me show you something. Now, the reason why we are going to let me see. That's not what I want. Is that it? No, it's not. Okay, so let me get my page up here because I'm working without really. Oh, here it is. Here it is right here. Okay. Now, let me open this up. Hold on. There we go. Now, this is what I'm studying. Family, I want to tell you something. This is the War of the Jews, and this right here is book 4. Now, in this book, I would say for you to read this. This is book 4, chapter 1. I am down in chapter 4, and I'm going to do. I'm just taking you through it right now because I want to talk to you about it. But we're going to study this because there's something in here that I saw that I want to show you. And I'm right here in chapter 4 when the Edomians were being sent for by the Zealots, and they came immediately to Jerusalem, and they were excluded out of the city, and they lay all night there. Now, Yehoshua or Yeshua, this is like Joshua, not Jesus, not the Hamashiach. This is another one. There was many that had the name. He was one of the high priests, and he makes a speech. And Simeon the Edomian makes a reply to it. Now, this is a situation. The story is being told here by Flavius Josephus, and what he is talking about is the fact that when the city was going on when the city was taken by Titus and Vespasian. Vespasian was the general, and Titus was his son. Maybe a lower general or a captain, I'm not sure. But we always hear Titus Vespasian, as if that's one name. It's not. It's two people. Titus. Now, when Rome came through here's the thing. Rome, the way that we're taught this, Rome did not come to smash the city. Rome came and said, listen, if you join us, we'll leave the city alone. You can live under your own rules, live under your own laws. Rome is like America. You have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, blah, 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 blah. As long as you don't speak against the Caesar, who is the emperor, you're okay. Right? You got a whole lot of freedoms. That's how America is set up like Rome. That's why they call America the daughter of Babylon or Little Rome, because it's set up the same way. When you look at your courthouses and your Capitol buildings and the whole nine, it looks just like Roman architecture, Greek architecture. So Titus came with the right hand of peace. He was like, look, I don't want to tear anything down. But if you fought Titus was a hammer and you became a nail. Okay? Vespasian would do the same thing. But because the Jews were so radical, Nero said, I want that place. Go take them down. So he sent Vespasian to go and take over the whole area, and Vespasian brought his son Titus. Right? Titus had his own army. So when you think about someone with their own army, think about Troy, okay? Because Brad Pitt played whoever he played. He had his own army. He had his own little troop of guys that rolled with him, and they were hammers. Just that little bit of guys that he had, they were just as hard as he was, and they would go take stuff apart. Just that little band of guys, 30, 40 guys, could go just wreak havoc somewhere because they were all killers and they were all just as bad as he was. Now, I had the name of that on the tip of my tongue, but I can't call it. Doesn't matter. Okay, so this story that I want you guys to pay attention to, this story, Flavius Josephus, this story is about what happened when in 70 A.D., when Rome came to take Jerusalem. Okay? Now what happened was this. Titus was off, he was coming toward Jerusalem, but he was taking down another city. And the guy who was in that city, one of the main guys in that city, was talking all this trash on the wall to Titus. And Titus got fed up with it, and he said, you know what, I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to take the guy. And because he was talking so much trash, Titus killed everybody. He killed women, children, men, babies. He spared none. He would have spared them if these people weren't talking all this trash to him. So there's a situation, as you read through these stories, where Titus, this same guy, escaped from the city, got into another city, and did the same thing. Well, the people who were in the city said, look, he's not for us, he's not with us, they're just, he came in. So Titus went after him, but let the people live. And when this guy John realized that Titus was only after him and didn't kill all the people, he ran into Jerusalem. But when he came into Jerusalem, he came in very hastily. He came in, he was running for his life, but he came in like the Romans are coming. Here comes the Romans, as if he didn't have anything to do with the reason why they were coming. So somewhere along the line, the people started to figure out that this dude was a fake and that he was the cause of the calamity that was coming. And so after him and his band had killed off all the high priests and everything, some other people in the city said, you know what, we got to stop these guys or they're going to be the death of us all. So they stood up to go fight against these guys and their band who had come into the city, and they're called robbers, who had come into the city. And so you see them fighting against one another, and then here come the Romans. Okay? So the Romans come, and then they turn and they band together to beat down the Romans. And as soon as they beat down Titus and Titus and them guys retreat, they go back to fighting each other again. So this is what the story is about. That there's infighting inside the city. They're trying to clean the city out from these guys, because if they don't clean the city out, Titus is going to come in and kill everybody. Because this dude is talking all of this trash the whole time, and they're trying to say, look, if we take these guys out, we'll be able to show the Romans that this is not who we are. We're trying to take out the bad element. They want to take out the bad, because see, Titus didn't want to destroy the temple. He didn't want to destroy the temple. He wanted to leave it all intact. But these guys were talking so much trash to the Romans that Titus's soldiers were like, we're just gonna take this thing apart. And they got to the point where they got into the city and they started taking things apart, and Titus couldn't stop them. He was like, you know what, gotta let it happen. The boys are already. It's like when that mob mentality happens, nobody can stop it. You just gotta let the mob run out. It's gotta run out. You can't stop the mob. You're one guy. Even if you're the captain, once their feet start moving and they're running, you can't stop them. And so they got in there and they raised the temple. They tore the place apart. Okay, and so people had left and had been leaving, and that's how a lot of tribes had saved their lives. A lot of people had saved their lives from various different families, because in here it's talking about families. It's not talking about black, white, it's talking about families. There were families that were ruling families, high priest families, princes and their families, kings and their families, rulers and governors and their families. There was families involved, from various different tribes. There were families involved, and so you had people from the northern tribes that had run into Judah or into Jerusalem for their safety, and some who had come down to worship at the southern temple and never went back home because it was mayhem, and they were practicing Greek customs and Hellenistic customs, and they had until they got to the point where they turned the temple into the temple of Jupiter, and so they never went back home. They stayed in Jerusalem, and that's why the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom were warring against each other, and they didn't like each other because they had become like Gentiles. They had become like Gentiles, and so the southern kingdom didn't want to have anything to do with the northern kingdom. They hated them. None of it was in the north, and that's why Jonah didn't want to go up there. It was like they lived like heathens. They lived like Gentiles up there. And so they had, and for after so many years of living like that, they had become Gentiles. They had forgot their Hebraic ways. So this is what I'm reading. It's Flavius Josephus. It's the Wars of the Jews. You can find it online, and I have 2 different copies of it, as a matter of fact. And so this one is Penelope. Let me see. This is the Penelope University Chicago.edu Josephus Wars. And then the other one I have is the Tent Maker. If you see that there, www.tentmaker.org books, and it's Josephus there. So that's Tent Makers, which is the same thing. It's the Wars of the Jews. It's the history of the destruction of Jerusalem, and it goes through. They all start like this. So it's the history of the destruction of the Wars of the Jews, written in A.D. 75 by Flavius Josephus. Now Flavius Josephus was a Hebrew himself, and he was a priest, but he was a priest that fought. He carried a sword. He was a warrior priest, and he was fighting along with the Maccabees against the Romans, and him and his little band of guys, and they had made a deal to surrender so that they would not die. And then his men decided that they were not going to surrender. They'd rather die than surrender to the Romans. And so they went out and they fought the Romans, and they got killed. And Titus, he bounced out. I'm not Titus, but Flavius bounced out and was hiding in some caves. And then Titus found out where he was, and he came to get him. But rather than kill him, he made a deal. I'll let you live. You'll be a prisoner of mine, but I'll let you live. And the thing of it was the Hebrews had such a rich history, and everybody knew their history because they knew of their God. Okay, and they knew that their God would protect them, and different people had seen the power of their protection, right? That those angels, just like when Elisha said, Father, let this youngster see who's riding with us. He's over here scared, his knees are shaking, scared in his boots, and he doesn't realize how much power we got with us. Open his eyes so he can see who's standing with us. And then he was able to see all of those warring angels and all those chariots and everything all around them. Well, the Romans were allowed to see that also, okay? And I'm about to get to that place in the book. But the thing about it is that when they saw that, because Vespasian saw it and Titus saw it, they were able to see it. The Father let them see it, but they saw it for a reason, and the reason that they saw it was because they were about to take the city, and the Father let them see the hedge of protection departing off of Jerusalem. And when they saw it, they were amazed at what they saw, because they saw the same thing. They saw the chariots, they saw the swords, they saw the angels, and then there was a large display and sound. They saw and heard. The Romans saw it, and when they saw it, they said, "This is a divine. This is divine. They said, this is divine of God," which, in other words, He's allowing us to take the city. He's moving out the way so that we can take the city. And they were able to. They took it because the ones who were in Jerusalem said there's no way that God's going to let this sanctuary get taken by these heathens. There's no way. But because of what they were doing in that sanctuary and what was what was going on in that sanctuary, I'm talking about the ones who ran into the city and stirred up all this trash with the Romans. They got to the point where when they were battling against one another, they ran into the temple and locked the gates. And so one faction didn't want to go into the temple. They wanted to kill them, but they didn't want to go in the temple to shed their blood. But these guys were so wounded and so cut up and so battered and beat up, they ran into the temple, and their blood was already on the floor. They had already defiled the temple. And that's why the hedge left. That's why the protection left, because they had defiled the temple. So they went up to the temple to fight with them and to take them out, but they fled into the temple and locked the gates while they were in there, laying around bloodied. And first of all, you've killed all the high priests, so you got blood on your hands. You've raped, robbed, and pillaged, your own people. You've raped, robbed, and pillaged your own people. And now you're up in the temple and you're dirty and you got your shoes on and everything. They've defiled the temple. And the Father said, you know what? We're out of here. And the Romans heard it and saw it. So I'm going to study that out and show that to you, because there's a couple other places in Scripture where this happened, where they saw and they heard. And that's what I want to talk about with you. Okay. So I'm showing you, this is the War of the Jews. And I would suggest that you read this, because this is the history of the destruction of Jerusalem. And when I see this and I look at this, this tells me so much about us today and the condition that we're in. We're fighting against each other right now. And we wonder why the Most High won't come. Because we're dirty in our temples. We're fighting against the Most High right now. We got brothers causing sisters deaths. We've got brothers taking sisters and defiling their bodies, just using them for sex and trying to cast them away. As long as you'll give me your sex, I'll say you're my wife. And we got brothers doing that. That's not right. That's not right. That's not how this works. And these same people who are doing these heinous acts, having these babies by these sisters and calling them their wives, and I was just watching a video about, why these sisters are going overseas, go over there full-blown, headstrong, ready to go in the Word, and they come back and they're done. Why I left the Hebrew Israelites, because of what's happening with them after they get overseas, how wrong they're being treated, how they're being done. I watched another sister's video just a couple of weeks ago, and I still don't understand what happened to her. But her video is like 3-4 years old, maybe older. And I was like, what the heck happened to her? But then it's kind of obvious when we got this one over in England. Sister went to England with these brothers or whatever. And then all of a sudden she ended up dead, And then I had another sister tell me, what's going on in these camps. She was like, look, I was in one of them camps. I can tell you. And I said, well, why don't you tell me your story? Why don't you come on and let me interview you, and let's make it public. Let's tell the sisters. I mean, you don't even have to show your face. Just let your voice be heard. And she was like, no, enough people already know. And I'm like, but sister, you're not helping anybody by staying silent on this. Tell someone. I mean, I'm listening to you. Tell someone. I'm willing to listen to you. See, and that's my thing. It's like, the real men of us out here, we got to be willing to help our sisters and protect our sisters. We can't let them continue to go this way, But I'm just one guy. When they talk to me, I'm like, look, I'm not after anything. And the ones that know me know that I'm not after anything. I don't care. It's not that deep with me. I mean, when the Most High is ready for me to have a wife, he's going to make it plain. These are my sisters that are being misused by my brothers. And I'm like, you guys need to tell someone. You need to speak up on this and stop staying silent. Don't stay silent. Tell someone. If you don't want to tell me, band up with 4 or 5 other sisters and go public on them like R. Kelly. Do something. Just don't stay silent. So, this is what's happening. The same kind of situation that was happening inside of Jerusalem that caused Jerusalem to fall is happening right now. And this is why this Messiah's not coming. Not, and when he does show up, he's going to be angry. And when he pull us to the side, we're going to get yanked to the side, and he's going to be separating sheep and goat. He's not going to be doing it with love. Get over here. You come over here. You get over there. He's going to be mad about some people and about some things. And when he starts separating, and people are going to be getting, judgment before, Scripture said that they all get pulled into the wilderness, and then he said, I will plead with you there. I'm going to tell you what's wrong, and you will have the opportunity to get it right, and you better, because he's not going to play with them like he did. Like they won't have the wilderness. They'll be able to go into the wilderness, and they'll have that chance, but trust me, he is not going to, his patience is going to be way shorter than it was in the wilderness coming out of Egypt. Why? Because this thing is over with, and he's ready to get it done. Right? I done woke you up. Now you have the understanding. I mean, he can snap his fingers and you'll have complete understanding. I woke you up. Now you have the understanding. Now you got to do it right. Get it right. Now he already knows whether or not you're going to even comply, because he can see right through your thoughts and see right through your actions. He can see right through you when you're saying, yeah, I'm going to do it. No, you won't. No, you won't. Go stand over there in that line. That's the line that's marked for fire. Go stand over there. I don't want to. Go stand over there. Don't make me put you there. Just go stand over there. There's going to be a whole lot of, but Lord, I cast out demons in your name. Just like it said in the scriptures, I didn't know you. Yeah, you might have did it, but I didn't know you. You weren't on my team when you were doing it. Maybe you were doing it. I cry every day about my wickedness. I'm like, Father, it's amazing that you still love me and you show me things, because you're still working with me, and I'm trying. But every day, somebody makes me mad and gets me PO'd, and I just want to go off on them and go upset. But I hold my peace, but inside myself. And then I come home and I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry. I should not even reacted that way inside myself. If you're being held accountable for every thought and deed, there doesn't have to be an outward showing. He see what happens inside yourself. And I'm like, see, I'm still struggling with this. I'm trying to be at peace, with these people, but these people are making it hard for me to be at peace with them. Am I supposed to be at peace with someone who's making it hard for me? Because the scriptures tell me to live at peace as best I can with all men. And I'm trying to live at peace as best I can. But at the same time, I'm not going to let you sit around and abuse my mother and me not say something about it or have something to say about it. It's my mother, And I tell him, and I've told him straight up, I will hurt you about my mother. I'm willing to go to jail right now about my mother. You think I'm playing? Check me out. Try me. You better start calling the police here in just a few minutes if you guys don't get this right. Because I will wear the handcuffs proudly about my mother. So, and my mother is the only, well, now there's two. She was for the longest time the only brew up in there. And I walk in there with my head held up, and I stand up for my Hebrew mother laying there. And when people ask me, about it, I straight explain the heritage and break it down to them. And so when these Christians come up and they're trying to minister to people in the whole nine, I back them all the way up and tell them, you can give me my book and you can get up out of here unless you want to listen to what's really being said in these pages. You don't understand what's going on. This book is not written to you. This book is written to Hebrews from cover to cover. If you're not a Hebrew, this book is not for you. It is not about you. It is not to you. So I said to a lady, if your husband wrote you a love letter and your best girlfriend intercepted it and then went off and convinced all your friends that letter was to her instead of to you, do you think your husband would be nice to her? Do you think he wouldn't be calling her all kinds of names and trying to like straight discredit her if he don't slap her in the face himself? What do you think he would do? This is what, and I tell people, this is what you got coming to you because you've stolen the love letter that was written to me and said it was to you. And when our husbandman comes, he's not going to be very happy with you because he didn't write that to you. It's not about you. It's not to you. And you're trying to convince everybody it's about you. So Anyway, family, I just wanted to put that out there for you and have you understand that this is what's going on with us right now. Excuse me. The history of the destruction of Jerusalem, the wars of the Jews, this is what's going on with us right now. If you read this story, I read this thing and I'm in, this is book 4 and I'm in chapter 4 of book 4, and I can see today, right now, I look around, I'm like, you know what? This is how we treat each other. This is how we do each other. We rob and we steal from each other. We kill each other. I don't like the fact that you dating that girl, and I want that girl. So I'm gonna shoot you and kill you. And nobody's gonna know that I'm the one that did it, and then I'm gonna date your girl. Oh baby, I'm so sorry, and he gonna get all close to her and catch her while she's vulnerable and she's hurting or whatever, and then he gonna side up to her. Next thing you know, he'll be sleeping with her out of her vulnerability. That's how we do. That's what we're doing that now. I'm seeing this crap happen. You're probably seeing the same stuff, if not worse, happen right now. Black on black crime, niggas are used to it. Family, I don't know what else to say to you. Read the stories, and then let's do better. We got to do better. We got to do better. So that's where I'm at, and I hope that you're there too. I really do, because it's time that we do way better than what we're doing. Okay, family. I'm gonna leave it there because it's 5:23, and I'm a ski skirt around here to Momma and do dinner with her before the night goes out. And I hope you guys have a better evening and a better day. Okay. And so with that being said, I'm gonna talk to you later. Okay. You guys do what you do, and then I'll see you on the flip side. All right, family? I'll see you on the flip side.